Thank you for joining us today for part 3 of our 3-part series on the transition from adolescence to adulthood.
Not always given the permission to say that we disagree, because we want to keep things on an even keel and be nice. But change doesn't happen when everything stays nice.
Right.
Things do need to be looked at from different vantage points. One of my mentors going through my career really highlighted that for me. You know, I can show you a piece of paper here, but there's more sides to this piece of paper. What you see is one part. Here's the other side.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, there's yet another side. And yet there's another side, and there's another side. It's like, oh, man.
Yeah.
There are different viewpoints, and we come at things from different life experiences, and we all have different sunglasses or eyeglasses that we look at the world with. And if it's very narrow, you set your expectations to that narrow vision.
Yeah.
And so when our listeners are going off to, college or breaking into college and doing things, the thing to keep in mind is there are other perspectives. They're okay.
Yeah.
They're not all wrong.
And I don't need to convince you of mine to make mine valid.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Your life experience is your life experience, and you might have somebody that had something similar, but it's never the same.
Right.
Never the same. And one of the things I do when I teach about, I do a lot of instruction for law enforcement and looking at perspectives from those individuals with mental health issues. And I said, one of the things I talk about is, the different perspectives and being aware that you may have gone through a divorce and the person in front of you may be going through a divorce. Well, your experience through the divorce might have been, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. And for them, it's probably the best thing ever. So same set of circumstances, but you can never say, well, I know what that's like. Yeah. And we all want to be careful of saying, oh, I know exactly what you feel, or I know exactly what you're going through. And it's hard because we're all individuals.
Yeah.
And so even as you're breaking into college life, which is, again, great, because there's another time where our world gets a little bigger.
Yeah.
One of the first times it gets bigger is when we're young children. We've got mom and dad in our immediate family, and then we go off to school. World gets a little bigger.
Yeah.
And I remember for when my daughter went off to school, that was a scary moment for all of us because we're like, and we wanted to protect, right? Because there are families that have parents that overprotect, and that's not healthy. But at the same time, it's their way of showing love, kind of a skewed kind of love. I'm going to protect you from everything, but you can't. Once that door opens, the world gets bigger.
Yeah.
And then they go through those formative years of, kindergarten, going into grade school, elementary school, then high school. Gets even bigger. And you get more experiences, and you take away different things, and there's yet, again, some guidance there that needs to happen. And then we go off into college, and then even after college, we still have choices and things. Even now, yeah. I mean, even in adulthood, we still have choices, and we can navigate our lives. Never does it get easier. A little bit, because you know a little bit more about who you are, and you feel comfortable in your own shell.
But even then, though, I think there's a sense of like, oh, am I a grown-up yet?
Right.
Because just the other day, so, as we've mentioned, in the past, our roles, my role is I'm the director of children's services at Peace River Center. So in most situations, as for you, like, we are the boss in the room, right? And we are the decision makers. And I remember the realization of there was some clinical, ethical, dilemma going on, and you have all these people in the room, and they're talking, and they're kind of like staffing it through, and then they look to me. I'm like, oh.
Right.
I'm the decider.
Well, I'm the adult in the room, am I?
Oh, goodness. And so I remember thinking, like, well, like, obviously, I felt comfortable, with my experience and the knowledge. I knew what to do. But there was also this, like, undercurrent of, like, oh my gosh, like, this is on me. And I am the decider. And I am prepared. And I do have, the alphabet soup behind my name. But I'm also that little kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? In a teeny tiny town thinking, like, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And so there's this level of, like, we're still who we are, even as we go down the road of, we're just figuring things out and we're doing the best that we can.
Absolutely.
With what we know. And the more we know, hopefully the better we do. But we're just trying. And I think that it's so refreshing to remember that we don't have to keep trying by ourselves, that we do have a village. We do have support. I've lost count of the times that I've called you and said, Kirk, I just need to say this out loud with someone who I trust. And so can you just remind me that, like, I'm halfway on track here. And I think sometimes, for me especially, saying it out loud in a safe space helps me process things.
Right.
And a lot of times I'll know, like, mostly what to do, personal or professional, but I just need to say it out loud. And I think that coming to college, you need to find somebody you can say it out loud to.
Agreed. Excuse me. Agreed. Yeah. With me, it was my college professor who I think she was one of the few people at that time that I was able to be truly honest, truly open with, because I felt safe. So I agree with you, Tiffany. You have to find somebody you trust and you feel safe with.
Yeah. And it could look different for different people.
Right. Different for different people, and you can trust them with anything.
I know in my experience, we had those layers of, they called it student life, like, student support. So you had the student, and then you had the student RA, the resident assistant, and then you had the RD, which was, a grown-up, right? They were, they might have been, 22, but they were the grown-up, the resident director. And then you had those layers of support, and these were people that you're doing life with. I mean, I remember vividly, oh gosh, Kirk, one time, our toilet overflowed in our dorm room, and I can tell you honestly, I had never used a plunger. I don't know why. Call me lucky.
Yeah.
But I had never used a plunger, so I'm calling my RD in a panic, like, I don't know what to do. There's toilet water on the floor. Disgusting. And Kirk, I honestly didn't know what to do, which you can make fun of me later, but I had never dealt with, like, an overflowing toilet. And the first thought was, turn off the water. There's water to turn off?
How do you do
there's
that?
A knob?
Right.
And so I remember just, vividly thinking, like, oh, I'm definitely a grown-up now. I just dealt with an overflow toilet. But just finding those people that you can be vulnerable with and say, like, look, I'm sorry, I don't know what to do here, or I don't know how I'm supposed to feel, or I don't know how to handle this problem, whether it be a toilet or whether it be anxiety that is not going away.
Right.
Because there is, and I know later we'll have more podcasts where we talk about, anxiety, depression, those specific diagnoses, and, what's the difference between just, everyday, nerves or butterflies, and when it becomes something that might require additional support. But there is that element of change, and there is a natural level of anxiety that's going to happen just because it's new. But you've got to have those people. And I know that for most colleges, there is typically counseling staff, on site.
Yeah.
One of the things from COVID that I think has been incredibly helpful has been the influx in telehealth providers. So you can receive counseling from your phone, like from, a Zoom link or from, a Microsoft Teams link. And so I think that, is there enough mental health support? Never. But I think there's more now than there's ever been.
The access, definitely. I agree. I think that if we learned anything in the pandemic is that, hey, we've got some technology here that can be useful in that regard. I mean, I know our experiences at Peace River Center, the counseling outpatient, their no-show rate dropped tremendously because people had access via the computer at home, which was fabulous.
Well, and the transportation is totally, that obstacle is gone.
Right.
Our program, Children's Services, we serve the Tri-County area. And when I say Tri-County, Polk, Highlands, and Hardy counties. And we have people from all over engage in therapy services that never would have been able to receive support simply due to the transportation issue alone.
Right.
You know, life is busy, and work and school and, you know, all of the different things. It makes it more accessible. And so I think that realizing that, number one, support is there. And like what you've mentioned before, you know, you don't need to even know exactly what you need. Just
Right.
saying, hey,
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, let someone help you navigate that, because there are people that are trained to be able to assess, okay, I think this would be helpful. I think this might be the right support. And they link those opportunities for you. And then you can figure out, is this right?
Right, exactly. And, you know, when you mentioned the pandemic, a thought came to my mind. You know, nobody planned for that. I shouldn't say nobody. I'm sure there were some individuals through CDC and health organizations that were like, oh, we got to prepare. And there were some. I remember being part of some tabletop exercises regarding some type of outbreak. But the point I'm trying to make here is that, you know, with all that planning, quote unquote, taking place, there were still a lot of surprises. So, and it was a transition. And here you've got well-educated individuals, older individuals, grown-ups, quote unquote, who had planned and were trying to get themselves ready. And for the most part, I think it could have been worse if we didn't have any planning. But I think we talk about telehealth and getting that mechanism into play, and we kind of, we'll get to it someday. Well, we were forced to get into that. And I think the point I'm wanting to make here is that not everything you plan goes according to plan, and you can't always plan for everything. And so when you do your best, and everyone does their best, I truly believe that everybody wakes up in the morning trying to do their best. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to be a dirty rat bastard today.
Well, and your best can be different depending upon the day. Like, what you have to offer might be a different amount each day.
Right. And so, you know, it's okay to not have a solid plan, have something, you know, a little bit of a goal at least. That will help you get towards that. And sometimes we have a goal, but we're not sure how to get there. And again, we don't always have to know how to get there. We got others along the way to help us. With going into college, you know, changing a career, because I had a plan. I was going to be, you know, I was going to make video games and, you know, do that kind of thing back then. Way out in left field back then. Nowadays, it's like, man, look, somebody's sitting in their living room developing, you know, Call of Duty. So it's all these kinds of things. You do your best to plan for your future, but life happens in different ways for each of us, and we got to be adaptable, be flexible. Don't be too hard on yourself if what you've planned doesn't go the way you had hoped. There are definitely those markers are out there to kind of give you a clue of what it might be like. And you kind of set some of your expectations with that, but expectations don't necessarily need to be set in concrete.
Right.
More like Jell-O. They have some form to them, but they're a little bit, you know, squishy. You know, so they need to be a little more pliable and open. So I think, too, what I've seen in a lot of individuals that I've come across in crisis situations is sometimes their expectations, they've got them set in stone, and it doesn't quite go the way they looked at it. So then they struggle with that whole thing collapsing. It's like, hold on, there's stuff here that you can still work with, and it might not be this exactly, but some semblance of it is there.
And just having that sounding board of, this is what I have, it's not going my way. What can I do? And, when you are 18, 19, 20, you don't have the life experience to have that wide perspective
Right.
of what does it mean to be a little bit more flexible, a little less rigid with like my expectation for the rest of my life.
Right.
Because the rest of your life can be a very long time. And it's okay for things to change. It's okay for interest to change. I think sometimes one of the more serious risk factors when we're thinking about, the intersection of mental illness and the college, age, I guess, demographic is you have people coming to a new place where no one knows them, no one knows their baseline, because everyone has, their own baseline. Some people are naturally more peppy, some people are naturally more low-key, but you have someone coming to a new place where no one knows them. No one knows what their red flags look like. And what we've seen, especially in working with people who have psychosis, is that the college age is really, the perfect space for the onset of, psychosis diagnoses sometimes, right? Because you have this pressure cooker of stress that is new, unrealistic expectations on yourself, but also incredibly limited supports, right?
Right. And right. And then you're going through something and it doesn't seem quite right, but you're not really sure. So you don't want to seem like that oddball, so you don't really mention it, and it just gets worse.
Right.
So getting that support, having somebody to kind of, again, bounce the ideas off. We've said that over and over again. Find that support system to kind of bounce some ideas off of, to get your frame of reference of what's normal. And I mean, there are going to be times where you're in this transition, and then all of a sudden you've got to make adult decisions. But I'm only 18. Yeah, time to make an adult decision here. Sorry, nobody can make that choice for you. They can be somebody to support you with whatever direction you decide to go in.
But it's your choice.
It's your choice. Exactly.
Well, and when we think about, mental illness and mental health and the statistics, 1 in 3 people ages 18 to 24 experience mental illness. 1 in 10 experience a severe mental illness. That is not, a number that I think people expect for this age range, because when you think of 18 to 24-year-olds, you think of people who are, strong and, making these very sometimes silly choices because they have their whole life in front of them. And just, really this is your time to do what you want to do and explore. Well, sure, but it's also the time to make sure that you are preparing yourself to take care of not only your physical health, but your mental health, because those risk factors are there. 3.8 million people between the ages of 18 to 24 have reported serious thoughts of suicide. So this is not the time to throw caution to the wind. This is the time to prioritize your mental health, right? As so many things are changing.
Absolutely. Start making it part of your regular routine, because taking those breaks, taking that step away, periodically reevaluating your expectations and your goals. That's not an unhealthy thing to do.
Sure.
Will they stay the same? Maybe. And maybe there's some adjustment.
Yeah. And maybe not. And that's not a bad thing.
Right. That's not a bad thing. But yeah, the numbers nationally are very, very daunting, especially around suicidality and our young people. With it being the second leading cause of death for our young people, that's a scary number for me. That means a lot of folks, a lot of our listeners are out there, maybe contemplating, ending their life by their own hand, and there's opportunity to reach out. I mean, we at Peace River Center have a crisis line that's available. We have a text line as well. You can get that through our website, peacerivercenter.org. And locally, the number is 863-519-3744. But for those who are listening from other parts of the country, the world, hopefully. Uh, we have 988, which is a larger network of crisis centers that are there with trained counselors willing to listen. At the very least, you reach out to those folks. And we've had that experience in our crisis network here, where people have reached out just to touch base with somebody and talk something through, from a benign kind of setup to the more serious suicidality vantage point. I mean, they're all pretty serious for the person going through it. I don't want to minimize anybody's crisis. They're the ones that define the crisis, not me as the counselor. And so if you're calling, they're there to listen. They're there to be a sounding board. They're there to help guide you to getting that additional help. There are people out there, like you and I, Tiffani, who are there willing to help, and be that ear to them.
And maybe the help isn't for you. Maybe the help is for someone you love, for someone that you know. And if that's the case, those numbers are still there for you. 988 is the National Suicide Lifeline Hotline. Any number, any phone that you pick up, you dial 988, and it will connect you nationally to someone ready to help. If you are local to our area, the Polk Highlands, our Hardy areas, you can always call the Peace River Center Crisis Hotline. And again, it's not just for suicidality, it's for emotional support. Call us. We're here to help 24/7. And that number is 863-519-3744. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for viewing. We are here to help. Our heart is to bring the message of mental health awareness and to decrease stigma. And we hope you'll join us next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed the show, please hit that like and subscribe button for us, and put comments in the comment section. If you or someone you know is struggling with mental illness, you can call us locally at 519-3744, area code 863, or on a national level, 988.